Shriner Bagpipes. That includes our very own Mr. Marty Freeman and Mr. Trent Schneider. seated. Good morning, and welcome to Lake Central High School and our Veterans Day Convocation. My name is Katerina Nikolowski, and I will be serving as one of today's Masters of Ceremonies. Veterans Day was once known as Armistice Day, on the first anniversary of the end of World War I on November 11, 1918. In 1926, Congress passed a resolution calling for an annual observance of Armistice Day. And in 1938, Armistice Day became a national holiday. In 1954, President Eisenhower officially changed the name of the holiday from Armistice Day to Veterans Day to honor all veterans from all conflicts. In 1968, the Uniform Holidays Bill was passed by Congress, which moved the celebration of Veterans Day to the fourth of Monday in October. The law went into effect in 1971, but in 1975, President Ford returned Veterans Day to November 11th due to the historical significance of the date. Veterans Day pays tribute to all American veterans, living or dead, thanking them for answering their country's call and serving their country honorably during war or peacetime. Lake Central High School has elected to hold our 5th annual Veterans Day Convocation today, November 8th, in order to accommodate the other 9 schools in our Lake Central High School Corporation. By doing this, all of our school corporations were able to host a Veterans Day Convocation. Today's event hosts over 200 veterans and their families. Reaching out and honoring our community's veterans is a great honor for us to have. On behalf of Lake Central High School, thank you for your service. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand and direct your attention for the playing of the National Anthem by Lake Central's Wind Ensemble under the direction of Mr. Elliott Smith, and remain standing for the posting of the colors by Northwest Indiana Senior ROTC.
Please be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, joining us today are members of our school community's Gold Star families. To better understand the term Gold Star family, It is a modern reference that comes from the service flag. These flags and banners were first flown by families during World War I. The flag included a blue star for every immediate family member serving in the armed forces of the United States during any period of war or hostilities in which the armed forces of the United States were engaged. If that loved one died, the blue star was replaced by a gold star. This allowed members of the community to know the price that the family had paid in the cause of freedom. As part of our ceremony, we recognize the sacrifice that all Gold Star families make when a father, brother, sister, son, daughter, or loved one dies in service to the nation. Lake Central High School recognizes that no one has given more for the nation than the families of our fallen. Our Gold Star families are the family of Staff Sergeant David Novacek, U.S. Army, killed in action during Operation Enduring Freedom. Specialist Sergio Perez, U.S. Army, killed in action during Operation Enduring Freedom. Albert Sedlasek, U.S. Army, killed in action during World War II. Daryl Grothaus, casualty of the Vietnam War. Please join me in welcoming our Gold Star families. In addition, joining us today, conducting our POW MIA ceremony are Mr. Marty Zigowitz, Indiana State Commander of the American Legion, and Mrs. Rose Zigowitz. Our guest speaker is Mr. Patrick O'Donnell, U.S. Army veteran, Vietnam veteran, and Veterans Views radio show host. Please join me in welcoming our guests. June 6, 2019 marked the 75th anniversary of D-Day in the Battle of Normandy. Over 150,000 soldiers from the United States, Britain, and Canada stormed the beaches of Normandy to reestablish freedom. Our very own staff member, Mrs. Bovard, daughter of a World War II veteran, traveled to and observed the anniversary in Normandy this year. This anniversary we remember and pay tribute to those heroes who lost their lives in the pursuit of freedom. Up on the screen, a video regarding D-Day will be played.
It's been said that the most man should know is what he's willing to die for. On the distant shores of a quiet beach in the north of France, there is a field dotted with thousands of white headstones solemnly overlooking the English Channel. Those headstones mark the final resting place of courageous servicemen, some English, some Canadian, and of course, American. To this day, the locals refer to them all as the Liberators. 75 years ago, these brave souls stormed toward heavily fortified enemy positions, manned by battle-hardened Nazi soldiers. These servicemen fought to liberate the world from darkness. They fought for the ultimate human ideal, the ideal that America is built upon, freedom. And for that ideal, they laid down their lives on that altar, the altar of freedom. The grit they embodied was not new. Their warrior spirit was forged through a proud history of courage and selfless sacrifice. From Lexington and Concord to the battlefields of Gettysburg, Shiloh, and Bull Run. From the muddy trenches on the Western Front to the forests of Belleau Wood. From the punishing naval warfare of Midway to the fields of Sicily and the jungles of Guadalcanal. When their nation called, they answered. And while Americans made the ultimate sacrifice around the globe, and here on these beaches of Normandy, their spirit lives on. It lives on through the new recruit raising their hand and taking the oath. It lives on through the soldier, sailor, airman, and Marine who serve with honor every day. It lives on through every veteran who ever wore the cloth of our nation. It lives on through every American man, woman, and child who serve their communities and look out for their neighbors. The best way to memorialize these American heroes is to forever embody their spirit, to continue to live by their example, and to never forget the debt we owe all of them for their sacrifice. Here, among these rows of headstones are countless stories of selfless bravery, which have been repeated on battlefields around the world throughout history. Our debt to them can never be fully repaid, but our responsibility to them remains. 75 years ago, these brave Americans embodied true fighting spirit. Today, and every day that follows, the legacy of their spirit is in our hands. And it is up to us to remember them, to honor them, and to ensure that the legacy of their spirit lives on. Forever.
Providing opening remarks is Mr. Bagley, principal of Lake Central High School.
Good morning. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our Veterans Day Convocation. A special welcome to our Gold Star families, and we greatly appreciate you being here. An especially warm welcome to our veterans. This year, it keeps on growing and growing. When you were checking in, I was looking into all the different campaigns and conflicts that we've had our veterans serve in. We have veterans from World War II, Korea, the Cuban Missile Crisis, Vietnam, Panama, Grenada, Operation Iraqi Freedom, Operation Enduring Freedom, and we still have current members of our community serving in Operation Inherent Resolve and Operation Spartan Shield. So thank you so much for being here. It does us great honor. This convocation has two purposes. The first is to show our appreciation to you, our veterans. And the second is to show all of you, our students, a valuable lesson. What you're looking down here is your fellow citizens. They are the 1% of our population that takes up the profession of arms, swears an oath to support and defend our Constitution, and goes out into war to defend our freedom, that we as a school community stand before you and humbly thank you for that. There's no way we can repay the debt that we owe you, but we hope that the breakfast, the songs, the speeches that we've prepared for you, and the voices in our students as they sing and play their instruments show that humble appreciation that we have for you. This event is a total team effort, and it was led by our students. So I hope that you see that these students, that there is a bright future. They put this all together. The custodial staff, the kitchen staff, office staff, and teachers, they played a critical supporting role. But this was put on for you, the veterans, by our students. Now going on to that second component, that lesson that we want our students to learn is that these people that serve aren't from some far-off land. They're your neighbors and they're your classmates. They're your brothers, your sisters, your fathers and mothers. It's important for you, our students, and our future who will take on the mantle of leadership to understand that in order for these veterans and all the veterans in our country to defend the freedoms that we all enjoy, that we've become accustomed to, and yes, that we've taken for granted, that these veterans had to sacrifice their freedoms. They essentially gave them up. And I think it was best put by the former Secretary of Defense, James Mattis, when he said, the willingness to, what these veterans have done is the willingness to sign a blank check payable to the American people, a blank check payable with their lives to defend our revolutionary ideas enshrined in our Declaration of Independence and our Constitution, putting freedom above all else. So again, to our Gold Star families, our veterans, thank you so much for being here at Lake Central High School. It's a great honor to have you here with us today, and we sincerely hope you enjoy our program. Thank you.
Good morning, Lake Central. My name's Tom Clark. I'm a teacher here. Been here way too long. As Mr. Bagley said, this was put together by the students. I've been here 38 years. I have now, in all the years that I've taught, this is the greatest day of the year because I teach in class, reading books, but this is the real thing. You gentlemen, you ladies here, you're the real thing, what you did for this country. And you enable me and others to have the freedom that we have today. There's one person in particular I would really like to thank, and that's Katrina. Come on up here. Also, the members of the History Club, the officers. Come on up here. Thank you so much. And it's not only these four, but there's hundreds of others. And that's what makes me so proud, that the students in this school, they stand for something. They stand for what you fought for, what you put the uniform on for to defend. And now, it's my great honor. I don't know even if I can even say this. Our guest speaker today is a decorated Vietnam veteran. He's also the co-founder of the Northwest Indiana Action Council and executive board with WJOB Veterans Voice. He is also the founder and anchor of that station. And we would have to be here for days to talk about this person. I find that as I talk to people, I always mention him as the friend of veterans. His name is Pat O'Donnell, and he is our keynote speaker for today.
Good morning, Lake Central High School! Hoorah! These are our veterans, the champions of liberty. Respect them. Now, I wrote a speech tonight, but I don't know if I'm going to use it. Today we honor our veterans. They have fought in ice, snow, desert, and jungles all over the world. And for what? So that you and all of us will have the liberties that we so greatly enjoy in this country. As we honor our veterans and remember their great deeds, let us also salute those who are currently fighting overseas at this very moment. We will never, ever forget them. The war on terrorism has helped us all realize how truly unique the American way of life is. The freedom we enjoy is extremely special, and that is why we must defend it. Now it is time to not only honor those who have fought or are fighting for our freedom, it is also the time for each and every one of us to take part in protecting it. The defense of freedom is not just for those in the military, it's in each of us. We share those duties and those responsibilities to protect those freedoms. Now, as of 2019, there were 12,987 living veterans who served through World War II, the Korean War, and the Vietnam War. Only 12,000 served in all three of those wars. 9% of veterans are now women. And we thank you. God bless these women veterans. Seven million veterans served during the Vietnam War. A lot of them came back with PTSD. Why? Why did so many of the Vietnam veterans come back with PTSD compared to a lot of the other wars? And I'll tell you why. The average infantryman in the South Pacific during World War II saw about 40 days of combat. It was tough combat. Thousands of people were killed. And some of them, of course, back then they didn't call it PTSD. They called it shell shock and other things. The average infantryman in Vietnam saw about 240 days of combat in 1 year. Because of the mobility of the helicopters, they were able to get into areas that were hot, and they suffered a lot of casualties. 1 out of every 10 Americans who served in Vietnam was a casualty. 58,148 of my brothers were killed, and 304,000 wounded out of 2.7 million who served. And we have some of these here in the audience today. God bless you. Although the percent that died is similar to other wars, amputations or crippling wounds were 300% higher than in World War II. They were easily brought back and saved, but they had crippling injuries. Now, as we sit here today looking over these fine veterans, we wonder to ourselves, will I ever become a veteran? Some of you will. Some of you will go in combat. When I walk through these doors today, I notice that you have a lot of trophies and plaques for championships that you won. Well, here's the champions of liberty right here in your school today. They have fought for the freedom of religion, the freedom of speech, the freedom of the press, the right to assemble like we're doing right now, the right to petition the government, and the right to bear arms. These are the champions of liberty right here. Let's give them a round of applause. USA! 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 These are the men and women who laid down their life for a noble cause, the cause of liberty, justice, and freedom. And we will never forget them. Never. I'm Pat O'Donnell, Veterans News Radio. May God bless all you students. May God bless all our veterans and military personnel serving. And may God bless America. Thank you very much. God bless you all.
Thank you, Mr. O'Donnell. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Lake Central High School Concert Choir under the direction of Mr. Nathaniel Jones performing the Armed Forces Medley.
Each year, we have a essay competition that we have students take part in, and we select out of those submitted a winner. And this year, to come up and read his essay, I'd like to bring up to the podium Nolan Rogers.
Thank you. Take a look around you at the person next to you. Would you be willing to die for them? And now think of a close relative of yours. Would you be willing to die for them? Now think of somebody you dislike. Would you be willing to die for them? We may nod now, knowing that we have a soft pillow to sleep on at night and not have any sort of fear. But would you leave it all behind right this second to carry the red, white, and blue torch and march forth with no guarantee of returning to your everyday life? These heroic citizens gathered today did. They would make the ultimate sacrifice for each and every one of us. When I was a child, I admired superheroes such as Superman. He would put himself into the heat of danger to save the lives of citizens and out of the grasp of evil. Though Superman is a fictional character, they're superheroes in our world. The ones who stayed awake in fear to make sure that we slept in peace. The ones who left it all to make sure that we have it all. These people are real superheroes. Not only the ones who are standing here today, but the ones who were unfortunately lost along the way. 116,000 in World War I, 407,000 in World War II, 54,000 in Korea, 58,000 in Vietnam, 373 in the Persian Gulf War, and 4,400 in the Iraq Wars. I'm sure you're all brought up to recognize our veterans and to make sure to thank them every Veterans Day. But what about any other day of the year? When we walk into the grocery store and see a person walking out with Vietnam War veteran sewn onto their hat, do we stop and thank them for their service? When we see people in all camo uniforms at a sporting event, do we stop what it is we're doing and walk over to the citizens that would fight and die for us? Or do we simply ignore them? So on this Veterans Day, we should all remember our brave veterans with or without us. We should also use this day as a reminder to thank our veterans no matter the day of the year, because the war never ends. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Lake Central High School Wind Ensemble under the direction of Mr. Elliott Smith, performing October.
Hello, Lake Central. Hello, veterans. Okay. Can everybody hear me? Okay. Thanks for the input. Today's POW MIA ceremony will be conducted by the State Commander of the American Legion, Mr. Marty Zigowitz, and his wife, who is the American Legion Auxiliary State Vice President. This is a place of honor in memory of fallen, missing, or imprisoned military service members. The table serves as the focal point of ceremonial remembrance, with each item on the table having special symbolism for our service members that are either prisoners of war or missing in action. When all these items are described, it makes up the POW MIA ceremony. This ceremony has a special meaning for our school, as two of our alums are today still missing in action. They are Aviation Radioman, 2nd Class Glenn E. Heath Jr., Dyer High School class of 1943. Glenn served on the aircraft carrier, the USS Bunker Hill, on April 7, 1945. His plane was shot down during the attack on the Japanese battleship Yamamoto. His remains were never recovered. And Staff Sergeant Robert R. Lansing, Dyer High School class of 1942. Staff Sergeant Lansing was lost on a bombing mission in Wewak, New Guinea. His aircraft was attacked by Japanese fighters and disappeared from sight on that day. He was reported missing in action as of March 8, 1944, and presumed dead January 26, 1946. His remains were never recovered. Please welcome Mr. and Mrs. Zigowitz.
Well, thanks for that kind introduction. That was really nice. Happy Veterans Day! Since Pat got you all riled up, I'll try and be a little more reserved. Anyways, my name is Marty Ziglowitz. I'm the state commander for 2017-2018 for the American Legion, which is the largest veterans organization in the world. Unbelievable, but without you, we would not exist. I'd like to introduce my wife, Roseanne Ziglowitz. She's the president-elect for the state president's position of the American Legion Auxiliary. She'll be helping me out today. Now, those who have served and those currently serving in the uniformed services of the United States are ever mindful that the sweetness of enduring peace has always been tainted by the bitterness of personal sacrifice. We are compelled to never forget that while we enjoy our daily pleasures, there are others who have endured and may still be enduring the agonies of pain, deprivation, and imprisonment. Before we begin our activity and ending our activity, let us pause to recognize our POWs and MIAs. Call your attention to this small table on the right, which occupies a place of dignity and honor. It's set for one, symbolizing the fact that members of our armed forces are missing from our ranks. They are referred to as POWs and MIAs. We call them comrades. They are unable to be with their loved ones and families, so we join together to pay humble tribute to them and to bear witness to their continued absence. The table is small, symbolizing the frailty of the prisoners alone against their suppressors. The tablecloth is white, symbolic of the purity of their intentions to respond to their country's call to arms. The single rose in the vase signifies the blood they may have shed and sacrificed to ensure the freedom of our beloved United States of America. This rose also reminds us of the family and friends of our missing comrades who keep faith while awaiting their return. The red ribbon on the vase represents an unyielding determination for a proper accounting of our comrades who are still not among us. A slice of lemon on the plate reminds us of their bitter fate. The salt sprinkled on the plate reminds us of the countless fallen tears of families as they wait. The glass is inverted. They cannot toast with us at this time. The chair is empty. They are not here. Sorry about that. I got a cold. The candle is reminiscent of the light of hope, which lives in our hearts to illuminate their way home, away from their captors, to the open arms of a grateful nation. The American flag reminds us that many of them may never return and have paid the supreme sacrifice to ensure our freedom. Let us pray to the Supreme Commander that all of our comrades will soon be back within our ranks. Let us remember and never forget their sacrifice. May God forever watch over them, protect them and their families. Let us remember. Now, as a little infomercial here, since I'm a Vietnam veteran, I'd like to invite you all to Stony Run Park tomorrow at 10:30. We have our Veterans Memorial, we have a beautiful Veterans Ceremony, so stop in. Those Vietnam vets from Lake County that are still missing in action are Francis B. Midnight from Gary, Billy L. Rogers from Gary, Charles E. Rogers from Gary, Ronald P. Susi from Whiting, Bruce Staley from Crown Point, and Thomas T. Wright from Gary. These are prisoners of war missing in action that have not been repatriated. Now, in World War I, we had 4,455 of those missing in action. World War II, 72,000. Korea, 7,751. 126 from the Cold War, 1,500 from Vietnam, and 6 from Iraq and other conflicts. Now, the Defense POW/MIA Accounting Agency, the DPAA, just recently received 55 boxes of bones from Korea. Of those 55 boxes, they already have identified 35 people. And they estimate there's another 300 in those boxes to be identified. It's very important that the families of those missing in action submit their DNA samples so they can get a proper and quick accounting. That's all I have today. I thank you all for coming out. And again, I say Happy Veterans Day.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Orex Shriners and our very own Mr. Marty Freeman and Mr. Trent Schneider performing Amazing Grace.
Patriotic Treasures, directed by Mr. Nathaniel Jones. Ladies and gentlemen, please hold your applause until the end, as we would like to thank all the people who made this ceremony possible. Thank you, Mr. Begley, Mr. Clark, Ms. Cavitan, and Ms. Stamper, and all of the other school administrators and staff who helped make this ceremony possible. Thank you to Mr. Volk and Mr. Rainwater and their classes for the artwork, the flags, and the hard work they have contributed. Thank you, Mr. Jarvis, Mr. Tomjanovich, and Ms. Jody Kobik for displaying the models of the Tri-Town Veterans Museum and for supporting our endeavors. Thank you to the custodians who helped set up today and the lunch ladies who prepared the lovely breakfast provided earlier. Thank you, ORAC Shriners, Mr. Marty Freeman, and Mr. Trent Schneider for playing at today's program. Thank you, Mr. Smith, the Lake Central Wind Ensemble, Mr. Jones, and the Lake Central Concert Choir for lending their talents. Thank you, Madeline Pedroza, Andrew Lane, Blessing Nate, and the Lake Central String Ensemble for playing beautifully at today's breakfast. Also, thank you to the members of History Club who have given countless hours to prepare and set up for the ceremony. It's these students that contribute their time that our ceremony is able to take place. Most of all, we would like to thank our guest speaker, Mr. Pat O'Donnell, and all you veterans and their family here today for the sacrifices made to ensure our freedom and safety. Thank you, and God bless.
Ladies and gentlemen, this completes today's ceremony. Please stand for the retiring of the colors.
Again, thank you all. Veterans, please be seated. We're going to dismiss now. So we're going to start dismissing the upstairs first. We're going to go ahead and start a 10-minute passing period, and then we'll adjust the clocks. If you have A lunch, you can go straight to A lunch. And as you leave, we encourage you to shake the hands of our veterans and wish them well. Veterans, if we can have you stick around, we'd like to get a couple pictures before you leave. So we're going ahead and we're going to dismiss the top at this time.